the relationship part is of course key, and then also the awareness, because there's times that we need to like learn and unlearn about the things that we've been. And then when I was going to do the contract work, 3 days later 9/11 happened.
It's time to pivot in your confidence, career, and compensation with the 5-Minute Career Hack Podcast every Monday and Thursday. Now, get ready for a special interview curated just for you. Welcome back to another episode of the 5-Minute Career Hack Podcast, where each week we are giving you 2 videos to help you pivot in your confidence, in your career, in your compensation. And this week is no different. I am so thrilled to have such an esteemed guest here on the podcast with us, and we are going to have such an amazing conversation. I don't know if it's going to be about being brave, but just stay with me, because I think brave is going to come up one or maybe a few times today. But I'm so excited to have Emlyn Lee here with me today. But before we hop in, don't forget to press subscribe so you can be made aware of all of our videos when they drop each week on Monday and Thursday. Subscribe and let us know how this episode resonated with you. So again, I'm so excited to have Emlyn here. And instead of me introducing Emlyn, I'm just gonna use a few of the descriptive words that Emlyn had on her LinkedIn profile, because I really feel like it embodies who I've gotten to know her to be. So Emlyn is a diversity and inclusion strategist. She is a servant leader. She is the founder and community collaborator at Brave Communities, and she's also a recipient recently of the President's Volunteer Services Award. I remember meeting Emlyn a little bit over 6 months ago. I think I was like in a gym locker room or something having a call, and I was so inspired by the work that she does at Brave. I was like, yes, sign me up for whatever you have going on. And I have a personal testimony that it has produced fruit just by your heart, your spirit, and the work that you do in the community. It's just been a pleasure to know you, and I'm super excited to have you on the podcast
well,
today.
Thank you so much. It's an honor and privilege to be here.
Yes, indeed, indeed. So I know you just didn't arrive here on the 5-Minute Podcast as just the magical career diversity and inclusion strategist, founder of Brave. Tell us a little bit more about you and your career journey.
Yeah, well, thank you again for letting me be here. I think my career journey is all kind of random. It's funny because when I talk to young people, those that are going from high school to college or college to the professional world, I feel like they're so much more accelerated in like knowing what they want to do and doing so much that I was like, gosh, was I like that when I was 16? Was I like that when I was 22? So long story short is I started off with an international global experience as one of my very first professional careers. So I went and taught English in China, which was my ethnic background. So I was born and raised in the States, but then I really wanted to go back to my roots. So I taught English in China, in Wuhan, China, and dating myself in 95, 96. And so it was very, like, probably the most amazing experience. One, I was just so young. Plus, at that time, China was just slowly developing. So, I mean, this is even I think internet was just starting. So I didn't even like FaceTime or talk to my parents regularly. So long story short, I taught English there and then ended up finding a job working on a riverboat ship on the Yangtze River. So I did that for a couple months. It was the Julie McCoy, if anyone knows what Love Boat is anymore. And kind of just did the like cruise director thing for a couple months. And then that introduced me to the tourism industry. So from there, I ended up working for a travel company based out of St. Louis, but their job was really to just to manage the operations of luxury tours. So it was total extreme. So long story short is like I had a very international experience. I got to travel the world, managing the operations and administrative things while being also the customer service for the passengers. And then when even though the job is wonderful and exciting, it also, you get a little bit tired of it. So I was about 3.5 years. So towards the early 2000s, I found a job working here in Austin. So I moved to Austin and worked here for a bit, but I still missed the travel. So I ended up going back and doing some contract work for that company based in St. Louis. So my last day of working was Labor Day weekend in 2001. And then when I was going to do the contract work, 3 days later, 9/11 happened. And so
Yeah.
it totally changed. And we're talking about pivots,
Pivots, right?
right?
Yeah.
It totally changed my trajectory of what I was planning on doing with like contract work because, of course, with 9/11, everything in the tourism industry was shut down. So my trips were canceled. And at that time, it was also where, yes, I felt like America and like the world was more united. However, there was a lot more xenophobia. There was a lot more fear that was put into us on like the others. And so while many travel companies shut down doors, I decided to start a travel company. So I started a small, like, grassroots experiential travel. So it was kind of going back to my roots of what made me travel first, which was to like just kind of do the backpacking thing and doing the local, like teaching English, getting paid as a local person.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of what I did, which was more gap break. So I'm sorry, I'm probably like going a little bit back too much of history.
No, you're fine.
But this
You're
is
fine.
kind of what I did for about 10 years. And then I got acquired by a study abroad program provider that was also based in Austin. And, just worked under their umbrella to kind of start their experiential arms. And at that time, it was also 2015, 2015. And that's where Mike Brown was murdered in Ferguson, which is outside of St. Louis. Freddie Gray was murdered in Baltimore, and I was born and raised in Maryland. And so it really kind of put a new perspective for me because I was always so globally focused. And so I really was like, wow, I need to really focus more on what's going on in my own backyard.
Yeah.
And so I think that was actually kind of a impetus of why I started Brave Communities.
Yes.
And so at that time, I actually worked with a nonprofit that was based in Virginia that I had volunteered at a summer camp that does a lot of State Department programs.
Yeah.
So they reached out to see if I could do some contract work for them with some international young leaders that were kind of stuck in the States because they were from Yemen and they couldn't return back for the civil, because there was a war there.
Gotcha.
So long story short is, and again, I always feel like things happen, for a reason, and God just kind of brings people and experiences and opportunities into place. And so I would have never personally mapped these opportunities out, but that's kind of how Brave got started. So it was more on like, let's have conversations about what's going on domestically and what's happening in our own backyard.
Right.
And then also at the same time, I was preparing like youth leadership and experiential programs and social entrepreneurship programs for another nonprofit that was administering State Department programs. And so I proposed, hey, why don't some of the programs, they come to Austin, so when they have city immersion experiences, Brave will facilitate those programs.
Nice, awesome.
Lots of pivots.
Yes, lots of pivots. And I think what I love about your history, because I purposely didn't read or didn't like go and read a bio because I thought it'd just be amazing to kind of hear from you. Because what I see and hear is the work that you've done, even where you started in your career, like it's led you to even have the heart and the compassion to do the work the way that you do. So I knew that I couldn't tell that story the way that you do. But I do want to read something that I thought was I just found fascinating. It was also from your LinkedIn profile. And again, just in my experience with you, I thought it just really embodied I've been a part of a lot of your activations and I've watched your work. I've been able to be up close. I feel blessed to be able to be up close in person. So when I read it, I was like, oh, this is it. This identifies Emlyn for me.
I don't even know what I wrote
Brave.
on my LinkedIn. What's on my LinkedIn profile?
In your About You section of your LinkedIn. So it starts with a quote and it says, every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars, to change the world. And that's a quote by Harriet Tubman. And then when you describe yourself, it says, I thrive on finding creative and innovative approaches to problems, business, personal, societal, and figuring out ways to transform broken systems. I believe through love, collaboration, and teamwork, we build relationships which form community. As a community, we learn, we unlearn, grow, and prosper together. I am passionate about people in the cultures of the world and work with a global and inclusive mindset. So I don't know when the last time you heard that or if it's a part of your brand statement, but when I read it, I was like, that's Target. That's what just in such a short time I've been able to experience and see through the Brave Young Leaders program. So I want to talk a little bit more about Brave.
Sure.
So again, tell us what Brave means.
Sure.
And then I'll kind of play off of that with a follow-up question.
Yeah, well, thank you. So Brave is a nonprofit here in Austin. We're 501c3 status. It's an acronym, so it actually stands for Building Relationships, Awareness, Voices, and Engagement. And that really is the true mission behind it, so that we cultivate and co-create brave spaces and safe spaces for people, really trying to amplify marginalized voices and stories so that we can change the narrative and change the systems that have been oppressing us for so long. And so it's really a chance for community members to come together and just like discover our similarities and share our differences and how we can build community.
Yes, love it. And I love how you talked about kind of that turning point for you was saying like, hey, I could do something in my own backyard, and that was at the inception of Brave. And then I stay impressed with how it impacts young leaders. So getting to see young leaders leading panels, leading events, had a chance to work with the intern program or the intern group, and just the not only synergy but the intentionality of the way you approach all of your programming. I think it's very, very unique. So I wanted to just applaud you for that because I can definitely see it. And then I think my question to it, because I love the acronym BRAVE of building relationships. And we learn, our brains are probably more open to learning how to build relationships when we are younger. So that's why I love the Brave Young Leaders program and that they have to embody that in all the things that you all do.
Yeah.
So, if you don't mind, tell me, maybe an aha moment. I mean, you started the company with building relationships as the beginning.
Yeah.
Is that your favorite element of the BRAVE acronym? And is there a story that you could share of when you knew this was the thing that you needed to instill in youth to move your mission forward? I've heard so many different answers, but how long should my resume be? Listen, a one-page resume is ideal for candidates with less than 10 years experience. Now, if you have more experience, a 2-page resume is absolutely acceptable. There's so many steps to creating a resume story that converts to getting your dream job. Sign up now for 5-Minute Career Hacks resume hacking services and let us help you right now. You even get a 1-hour consultation with our team.
Yeah. I think all of the elements are important. Of course, like building relationships is the core, as well as like the awareness, right? Because I think a lot of times, we can have great relationships, whether that is through friends and coworkers and family, team members and things like that. And I feel like the awareness part is just as important because sometimes, when you get into your circle of life and circles, of course you want to be with people that provide, the same values and the same ideas. But I also find it, and I was just telling the interns this yesterday, that it's so important, of course you want your core like connections, but it's also important to really try to diversify and be able to gain different perspectives from people. And the best way to do that, I mean, beyond reading books and reading, watching movies and TV shows, is really getting to know people and build that relationship. They might not have to be like friends, and best friends, but at the same time, just knowing and getting different people's perspective of their ideas, like their background, their cultures, and so I think the relationship part is of course key, and then also the awareness, because there's times that we need to like learn and unlearn about the things that we've been brought up from wherever our neighborhood is, whatever our parents like beliefs are, and how do we just continue to build that relationship through each other.
Yeah, no, I love that. And, I think I've talked to many leaders on the platform, and just in general in my journey through my career, probably one of the constants that I would say gets anybody from point A to point B is relationships.
Yeah.
whether it's sometimes it's the one with yourself, sometimes you got to go back and reevaluate your spiritual relationships.
Yeah.
But I think the relationships that we build with others outwardly is a huge factor in how successful we can be in business and how we can really be able to listen to others, get to know them so that when you all are doing work together, you can meet them where they are versus where you think they should be, or meeting somebody where you are. Right. So like that's what I think when you say awareness, you got to listen and you got to hear and be aware of how this person needs you.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I know you've chosen programming that spans across different ethnic groups, that spans across different genders, different focuses and disciplines. I love to just hear more of maybe a unique story or a time when you were like, this one is where I want to, it's going to make me think differently about how I can meet this person with this difference or this group with this difference. I love to hear more about that.
Sure. I mean, even when we're we started the Brave Makers. Initially, our Brave Young Leaders initially was called like Brave Makers back in 2016 or 2017. And it was just something, this was after I got back from spending a whole summer with 2016s from Yemen that were in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. And so I came back in Austin and I was just like, okay, there's got to be a way that I can work with young people.
Yeah.
I was kind of in this like midlife crisis of being single and motherless, that I was like, I can do something more with young people. And so, so I, just threw out on social media and to friends of like, hey, if I want to work with young people and just get a nice, good handful of people, like young people to work with. And it's those guiding moments where it was 5 college students from 3 different campuses around Central Texas from 5 different ethnic backgrounds. And so ACC was generous enough at the time. Dr. Stephanie Holly was the equity officer there. And so she, just donated classroom space and was like, sure, have people meet here. And so that was, again, I think my first interest of I want to work with a different generation, so these are students that are college students kind of pursuing that 18 to 24 age range. And so how do we just talk about different social issues? So we would, whether it's reading articles or watching YouTubes, and then I would actually ask subject matter experts coming in, so kind of serving as panelists or guest speakers. But because there was only 5 Brave Makers and maybe 3 to 5 panelists, then I opened it up to the community. I was like, okay, let's just open it up. And then we did that maybe once a month, which became the community conversations. And then that's where more of the community members wanted to attend. And I needed to get bigger classroom spaces from ACC each month. And so that's kind of where that pivot, changed, where it's okay, let's also focus on the community conversations. And also giving the platform and that leadership practice to the Brave Makers at the time. So then they were preparing and serving as the moderators. So with that was kind of how Brave got started on a local level, outside of the global programs. And so that was something that I did. I did take a little bit of a pause for the students, just because then I ended up getting a full-time job with the city. And so this was all just kind of my little fun project. But we kept doing the monthly or the regular community events.
Gotcha.
And then, of course, COVID happened, and so that was another pivot for everybody. And so while we had COVID and the George Floyd and the racial reckoning of the Black Lives Matter and just where we are as a country with our racial injustices, it brought me back to I need to do something with the young people, where are they at? So my childhood best friend who lives in New York, she and I were talking, and she's got at the time, I think a 8-year-old daughter, and we're just talking how hard it must be for, kids to be at home and isolated, and also with social media, watching all the news that's, coming out. And so we created this virtual program. So we first we created it as a 14 to 18-year-old for teen girls, just for a summer, kind of a summer virtual workshops. and then that was 2020, and
Yeah.
there was also an election year for the fall. So when that summer ended, these girls were my hope, you know.
Uh-huh.
So then it was
Yeah.
like also the elections were happening. So I just offered, hey, if anybody wants to continue on, I'm happy to continue mentoring me. I mean, mentoring you all while they were mentoring me. It's
Right,
like a
right.
cross exchange.
Yeah, it's an exchange
Right.
for sure.
And
for sure.
so we stayed on like virtually, and I
Yeah.
think a good handful stayed on. So they became what we was then known as Brave Ambassadors. So that was kind of the academic year, and it just kind of grew. I think when I started hiring interns and or like young like staff, and it was all genders and different ages
Yeah.
of between like 18 to 24. They're just like, hey, we want to be part of the Brave Young Leaders.
Yeah.
So it just kind of extended. So then now our Brave Young Leaders program is 14 to 24-year-olds,
Gotcha.
all genders. And
Gotcha.
that was this past school year.
I love it. I love it. I love it. No, again, you just, even the more you talk about it and just to even see the passion that you have for it, I mean, it's inspiring to witness. I don't know if you could see this through the camera. If you were honing in on Emlyn's face, like, it's extreme passion. So, I love, before we get into talking about Brave Fest, which is coming up and wrapping up, I heard you talk about not only are you pouring into these youth, but this is also an opportunity for us to learn from youth as well. Because I saw in your LinkedIn profile how it talks about learn and unlearn.
Yeah.
And that's so important, especially to understand how critical
Yeah.
your ability to do that is,
Right.
especially when we are working with young, impressionable leaders, not future leaders, but leaders in society and culture today.
Yeah.
So thanks for highlighting that. And if I may put you on the spot, as you think about all the various programs, Tech Girl, the Professional Fellows Program, the Summer Intern Program, the monthly Diversity and Inclusion programming that you do, what's been the first lesson that comes to mind, or the most impactful lesson that you've learned from one of the youth leaders that you've worked with?
Oh, wow.
And I'll say real quick, the reason I want to ask this is because sometimes they think
Yeah.
that, they just, that I can't teach them anything, or
Right.
we're here to learn.
Right.
And I learn from when I do workshops, when I was with your interns, I was like, man, I learned so much about myself today.
Yeah.
So I love to just hear
Yeah.
if you could share a lesson or something that you've been able to carry forward in the Brave Communities program.
Sure. And I think, that's a great question. It's hard to like just pick out one spontaneously. I think the biggest one for, especially now, because right now I'm mentoring 5 teen girls. So we kind of took our Brave Young Leaders program is during the academic year, but we're also right now receiving 5 interns from the Travis County program. And so it's kind of like my little summer Brave Young Leaders program. It's so interesting to see where they, like in the very beginning, and they're 5 like complete strangers, of how shy they were, even in the intro, right? It was just icebreakers of saying, like, what's your favorite hobby, your favorite food? At lunchtime, it's like, what's your favorite food? And it was like almost so shy to even answer that. But I think it's because I actually don't know why, but like literally the next day, like we were meeting Tuesday, Thursday. So in 2 days later, when we met again and did the icebreakers, they were just giggling, talking, and like, so comfortable. And I think the thing too is just making sure that they feel heard and seen. And I think, when some of them, this is their very first job, and such a long day of professional work, and so I think they didn't know what to expect. And so when they think of, oh, this is my first job, and I've got this like lady that's like gonna be my boss, just asking me for like, what's your favorite things, they I don't think they realize that like their voice matters, and even for the simple things of what is your favorite hobby and your favorite food. But then when we often, like, of our society, as we talk about oppression and marginalization, like we often marginalize young people too, and seniors.
Gen Zs,
and
we're always talking about the Gen Z.
Yes.
They're a problem. No, they are here they're going to help us.
Yes. And I think it's like, we now are saying like we have to have young people at the table, and we also have to, as adults, we have to recognize, yes, we can like now we have a seat at the table, but then now we also have to listen to them and let them know that, I think the other thing too is just like, just say whatever, like even if it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
Just don't be, be brave enough to share how you feel and what you think. And so that's some of the things that we're working on now, and we're also reading, I got them all a book, it's the Lovey Jones book, and it's I can't remember the title, it's like Miss Troublemaker or something, but it's like how to use your voice. And so it parallels perfectly with Brave, and just trying to, the V part of use your voices, and really know who you are, so that you can feel comfortable with people that you don't know.
No, creating space for them to be seen and heard. And I love how you talked about, making sure they had a seat at the table. I think there's something for getting lessons and being seen and heard in obscurity, but it's something more to be doing it out loud and up front, the way you create your programming. I think it helps build confidence. And that's well, I saw that last week when I was with you all. So funny story, I come, for those who don't know, and I come, so I have the 5-minute career hack values exercise, and everyone's like, yeah, we did values. And I'm like, wow, that is amazing. I don't know that when I was in high school that I was doing a values exercise. And I think what it says, to your point, is that it shows care. It shows care for them and their success in this program, the way that they, how they feel after being seen and heard. It just shows a high level of care and concern when they said that. So I've been able to attest to it. I told you I feel blessed to have the visibility.
That was your first activity. You're like, I don't know these ladies, but let's talk about values. So that's the same thing.
Absolutely. Because I know we have to start there. And I think,
Yeah.
Even when we talk about what's in the B and the R of building relationships, I mean, I can go on and on about this, so I'll go quick. You can go out building wrong relationships, getting mixed up with people or idling things that don't align with your values. And to do that now with the youth, I take it personally and seriously that, we're having those conversations to help them learn how to respond to what we can't control in culture and society. So having the open conversations and giving them a space at the table to be seen and heard, I think is an excellent way to do it. Yes. And you have another way coming up too, that youth and the community can be involved and be a part of collaborating with all the amazing things you do. So Brave Fest is back. So tell us about Brave Fest and why should we be excited about Brave Fest?
I love Brave Fest. So Brave Fest, the inaugural one was back in 2018. That was the very first one, and I thought it was going to be a one and done event. It was the 50th anniversary of MLK's assassination in April. And so I think in January, like around his birthday weekend, I was like, is anyone doing anything in Austin for his, I know in Memphis and Atlanta and DC they were doing stuff, but nothing in Austin. So like in 3 months, I was like we put together a Brave Fest festival. And so it was very well received. And then people were like, do it again. And so we did it again. We moved it to February. It happened to be the coldest February in 2019. So anyways, long story short is we're bringing it back. We decided to move it to end of July because we are also hosting Tech Girls. So we have 21 teen girls coming from the Asia Pacific region this year that'll be here just for 5 days, where they they visit tech companies and live with host families. And so I was like, this would be a great way to kind of give them an experience to have that Austin live music, embrace diversity, and then also a nice break for the host families, because July is pretty hot in Austin. At least Antone's is air conditioned, so we can have live music.
Good choice.
Yeah. And so we have a great lineup. We've got the Peterson brothers performing, Saul Paul, a mariachi band, Sway with Prey Bollywood dance, the Foxtones. So that's going to be the musical acts downstairs, and then we have local vendors upstairs, as well as Chris Isom reading. He's a children's book and health nutritionist. So he just wrote a book that's going to be Vitality Quest.
Okay.
So he's going to be reading and signing that. Terry Mitchell is going to be reading her book, The City We Built, and then signing that. So a nice, like, family-friendly event. Of course, everybody is welcome. We are going to have it from 2 to 6 p.m. We'll have some food vendors there too.
Okay.
And just a really great day to just celebrate. And really, our hope is to, again, build relationships, awareness, voices, and engagement, and really amplify the amazing talent we have of, like, the BIPOC communities, the creatives upstairs, and the entrepreneurs. And so just to have a great time. And thankfully, we have a great support with the interns right now. Some of them are, helping out with Brave Fest. So it's been multi-generational
event management,
love. Yes,
event
exactly.
operation strategy.
Yes.
Like, they are getting all the skills at Brave. Yes.
They are, yeah. So I hope everyone comes out.
Yes, love it. So how can one register? Like, how can the community get involved with Brave Fest?
So you can get tickets and information. Our website's probably the best, so bravecommunities.org. You can also follow us on our social media. So our Instagram and Facebook is Brave Communities, and then our Twitter is Brave_ATX. But follow any of those social medias or go on our website, and then you can get tickets. We have volunteer opportunities. There are tickets. This is our one ticketed event that we have that helps us support for the remainder of our programmings for the year. And this one, but of course, we're always equity focused. And so if you have any, financial challenges, just let us know. We can provide scholarships or volunteer opportunities.
Love it.
And so, just want everyone to come out.
Yes, love it, love it. We will make sure we put that information also in the show notes for people
awesome.
to come and join and be a part of Brave Fest.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up,
Yes.
as I always in the podcast,
too fast, yeah.
I know, I told you it was
It
going to go
goes
really
so
fast, right? That's okay, because we're both in Austin. We can do it again
Okay.
if we need to, right? So final 5 words. Final 5 words. And while you think about it a little bit, I told you when I read the intro, I was going to read the words that I wrote down to describe you in the work that you do at Brave, and what my experience has been like with Brave, and doing this because I think if there's people in our network or who are watching on this platform who are trying to figure out ways to be involved with something that is bigger than us, I think Brave is a very good place to do that. And so I think it all starts with who the leader is, right? So I didn't get a chance to read it because I was like, I'll just usher Emlyn into her final 5 words with my final 5. So I've got ally. Thank you, Emlyn, for being an ally. Heart-centered, purposeful, collaborator. And I see you, and I'm just going to be transparent, I see you taking the kingdom as well to the streets in this programming. So kingdom ambassador is the word that I wrote down for that. So
I like that. Thank you.
I wanted to just, kind of make sure that I express that, because I think if anybody is looking to do and be a part of something that I think is so special, this is a place to be a kingdom ambassador. So with that,
thank you. I love that phrase. Yes. I'll take that any day.
Tell me your final 5 words, a phrase or just 5 words that resonated with you over the last 30 minutes. That's how we'll wrap up today.
Okay. Well, outside of the Brave, like building relationships, awareness, voices, engagement,
that would have been an easy
words.
one. Do another one.
No, yeah. I'd say like community, compassion, love, unity, and hope.
Community, compassion, love, unity, and hope.
Yeah.
Love it.
I feel like that's
Love it. You may have had a virtue or 2 in there, I think, too, maybe. I don't know. Emlyn, it's been such a pleasure.
Thank you.
To just sit and connect with you deeper. That's a part of building relationships. So, again, I've enjoyed, building a relationship with you and Brave. I'm looking forward to the future.
Thank you so much.
Indeed. Have a good one.
Thank you, too.
Yes.
I truly hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we enjoyed doing it for you. However, it doesn't have to end there. Come on over to our Facebook group community right now for free. You're going to get exclusive content that we weren't able to include in this episode as well as past episodes. We've got challenges, We've got research, we've got lives, you name it, all for you in bite-sized chunks so that you can continue this development journey. Go ahead, click the link right now in the description show notes, and we'll see you there.